Hi everyone, I'm very excited that you're with me today. Welcome to Mindful Elevation, turning stress into strategic strength. I am your host, Dr. Jacqueline Nelms. And in my episode, in episode number 1, we are going to be talking about resilience and purpose, high performance, and becoming the most elevated version of ourselves from the inside out. I'm your host, Dr. Jacqueline Elms, a behavioral scientist, master level life coach, and founder of Mindful Elevation, Strength and Resilience Within. And today I want to kick things off by telling you who I am and why I created this podcast and what you can expect every time you press play. So let's start with the who. I'm someone who has lived several lives in one. Sound familiar? I've spent 25 years in healthcare, leading in the revenue cycle space, building teams, fixing broken processes, advocating for people inside organizations to function better. At the same time, I was growing as an academic, earning my Doctor of Health Science with a concentration in leadership and organizational behavior, because I wanted to understand at a much deeper level why people in high stress, high stakes roles burn out and why some don't. I also do specialized work with law enforcement and high stress professionals because I care deeply about the people we expect to show up strong, even when we rarely give them spaces to be human. And then there's the part most people don't always see. I'm a coach, I'm a researcher, creator, and a woman who came through a traumatic and complicated childhood and still decided, no, I'm going to build a life I love. And I'm going to help other people do the same. So when I say mindful elevation, strength, and resilience within, I don't mean a cute name brand. I mean a journey, a choice, a decision to rise. So professionally, I've sat in rooms where executives are trying to figure out why their teams are disengaged. I've talked to law enforcement officers who said, look, we take psychological assessments to get in the door, but does anyone really care about our mental health once we're on the job? That question actually led me to my dissertation, which explored law enforcement officers' perceptions of psychological assessments and mental health support within the culture. And what I found, not just in research, but in honest conversations, is this. People want to stay well. People want to perform at a high level, and people want to be aligned with their purpose. But there's stigma, there's mistrust, there's fear of being judged or labeled, and there's a lack of practical tools that fit that reality of people in high pressure roles. At the same time, I coach entrepreneurs, executives, service-based leaders, and women who carry a lot, and they're telling me the same thing in different words. I'm doing everything for everybody, but what about me? So I realized the gap is not motivation. The gap lies in mental resilience, emotional regulation, and self-leadership. And that's where this podcast comes in. So why a podcast? Because I wanted to create a space where I could speak, teach, and serve at scale. I wanted a space where law enforcement spouse, a chief nursing officer, a real estate professional, anyone in a stressful job, burning out from stress and high culture and demanding culture, can come to the table and hear what I have to say. I wanted to bring research, not in a boring way, but in a way that says, here's what science tells us about stress, performance, and the brain. And here's what it looks like on a Tuesday when your team is acting up and your nervous system is fried. I also wanted to be in a place where I can normalize the conversations high performers are afraid of or afraid to have. I'm exhausted. I don't feel seen. I'm successful, but I'm not fulfilled. I'm leading others, but no one is leading me. So this podcast is me saying, you can be powerful and still need restoration. You can be high performing and still need healing. You can be a leader and still be human. So let me talk for a minute about what I actually do, Because I know some of you may wonder, okay, Dr. Nelms, so what lane are you in? And here's how I describe it. I help people and organizations transform stress into strategy so they can lead, serve, and live at a higher level without burning out. And I do that through mental resilience and emotional wellness coaching, helping clients master their mindset, self-talk, and emotional regulation. Leadership and executive coaching, helping leaders show up with clarity, confidence, and presence. Evidence-based frameworks. I've developed the Emerge and Ascend framework, and it takes people from awareness to alignment and to sustained action. Programming for high-stress industries, law enforcement, healthcare, service-based professions, where burnout and compassion fatigue are real. And now this podcast, which will feed all of that. So whether you come to me because you want to grow, you want to heal, or you want to lead better, it all centers on the same idea. Elevation starts within. So this podcast, is it for you? Let me tell you who I had in mind when I hit the record button. The leader who always is a strong one, but you don't have a place and you don't have to be there all the time. Law enforcement officer whose spouse or understands the silent stress that comes with a badge. And I could tell you a story of that. The entrepreneur or executive who is winning on paper and quietly asking, what's next? And how do I do this without losing myself? The helping professionals, nurses, psychologists, caregivers, service providers who pour into everyone else and need evidence-based tools to prevent burnout. The woman with the story who grew up in chaos, who beat the odds, who did the degrees, who raised the kids, who built a career, and now wants to integrate all of it and operate from purpose. If you hurt yourself in any of those, stay close. This is for you. Let me tell you what you can expect from Mindful Elevation. Short, practical teaching episodes. I'm going to break down topics like rewiring your story, mental resilience for high performers, emotional labor and why it drains you, goal setting that actually sticks, nervous system basics without the jargon, research-informed insights. Because I'm a researcher at heart, I'm going to pull from literature, from my dissertation work on law enforcement and psychological assessments, from occupational health, psychology, and I'm going to translate it into here's what to do. Coaching style reflections. I'll give you questions to journal on, to bring to your team, to take into your marriage, to use with your staff. Guest conversations. I'm going to bring in people from law enforcement, healthcare, leadership, entrepreneurship, people who have lived it, so you can hear that you are not alone. And of course, inspiration. Because some days, you don't need a 5-step model. You just need someone to tell you, I see you. I've been there, and you can do this. My promise is, I will keep it real, research-based, and relevant. So before we wrap up, I want to share my deeper why. I didn't grow up with everything handed to me. I sure didn't. I didn't come from perfect circumstances. I've known trauma. I've known what it feels like to be a teenage mom trying to figure life out. I've known what it means to build degree by degree, role by role, project by project, and still feel like I have more to say. And I realized there are so many of us who have done the hard things, but we don't always pause to process, to integrate, and to elevate. This podcast is my way of saying your story isn't something to hide. It's something to leverage. Your stress isn't always a problem. Sometimes it's a signal. Your leadership isn't just about your title. It's about your self-leadership. And your mind, when you learn to work with it, you become unstoppable. I want this to be the place where high-capacity people come to remember who they are. All right, if you're still with me, I hope you are, thank you for being part of episode 1. Here's what I'd love for you to do. Follow me and subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss upcoming episodes. We're going to dive right into mindset, resilience, and leadership. Share this episode with someone you know is carrying a lot. Maybe a law enforcement family, maybe a leader, maybe that friend who's always a strong one. Connect with me online. I'm on LinkedIn and across my Mindful Elevation platforms. If you're ready for coaching, executive work, or organizational support, reach out. That's what I do, and I love it. And if something I said today hits home, tell me. I want this to be a two-way conversation. Thank you for trusting me with your time, your attention, and your growth. This is Mindful Elevation, and I'm Dr. Jacqueline Nelms, and I cannot wait to walk this journey with you. See you in the next episode, and remember, elevation is a decision. Choose it today. I hope you have a wonderful, blessed day. Thank you.